I found every single photo of my mother in the trash can while Dad was in the hospital fighting for his life. My stepmother, Patricia, thought she was finally erasing Mom's memory from our house forever. What she didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment for 3 years, and those photos were just bait. My name is Marcus Sullivan. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a digital forensics specialist for a tech company in Portland, Oregon. Skills that would prove invaluable in protecting what mattered most to me. Mom died when I was 16. Cancer took her slowly over 18 months of treatments that drained our savings and our hope. Dad was devastated. For 2 years he barely functioned, drowning in grief and medical debt. Then he met Patricia. Patricia Henley was 42, recently divorced, with perfectly styled auburn hair and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She worked as a real estate agent and had that polished, aggressive charm that some people mistake for genuine warmth. Dad was vulnerable, lonely, and Patricia swooped in like a predator who'd identified wounded prey. They married after dating for 8 months. I was away at college studying computer science when Dad called about the engagement. The ceremony happened over a weekend when I had midterm exams. A coincidence, Patricia assured me. The changes started immediately after their honeymoon. Patricia began redecorating the house where I'd grown up, where Mom had chosen every piece of furniture, where her presence still lingered in the garden she'd planted. One by one, Mom's things started disappearing. First, it was subtle. Mom's favorite coffee mug vanished from the kitchen cabinet. Her reading chair was moved to the basement. The family photos on the mantel were gradually replaced with pictures of Dad and Patricia's new life together. When I confronted Dad during winter break, he looked uncomfortable but defensive. "Marcus, I loved your mother deeply, but I have to move forward. Patricia's my wife now, and this is her home too. But it was Mom's home first. Your mother is gone," he said quietly. "Patricia is here." That's when I realized Patricia hadn't just married Dad. She'd declared war on Mom's memory, and Dad was too broken to fight back. But I wasn't broken. I was angry. Over the next 3 years, I watched Patricia systematically erase every trace of my mother from our family home. She threw away Mom's garden tools and replanted the flower beds. She donated Mom's clothes and jewelry to charity without asking. She even convinced Dad to trade in Mom's car, claiming it was too painful for him to keep. Each erasure was presented as healing, as helping Dad move forward. But I saw it for what it really was, a calculated campaign to eliminate any competition from a dead woman's memory. I started documenting everything. Every item that disappeared, every change Patricia made, every time she manipulated Dad into decisions that honored her preferences over Mom's legacy. I kept detailed records, photographs, and even recorded conversations when possible. My digital forensics training had taught me that evidence preservation was crucial, and I knew that someday I'd need proof of what Patricia was doing. The opportunity I'd been waiting for came last September. Dad collapsed at work, heart attack, massive and unexpected. The ambulance rushed him to Oregon Health and Science University Hospital, where doctors performed emergency surgery and placed him in intensive care. For 72 hours, we didn't know if he would survive. I took emergency leave and stayed at the hospital around the clock. Patricia made appearances playing the devoted wife for the medical staff, but she didn't sleep in the waiting room or hold Dad's hand through the long nights like I did. On the 3rd day, when Dad was stable but still unconscious, Patricia announced she needed to go home to rest and handle urgent real estate business. "You should go home too," she told me. "Get some sleep. I'll call if anything changes." I agreed, but I didn't go to my apartment. Instead, I parked down the street from Dad's house and waited. 2 hours later, Patricia's car pulled into the driveway. She went inside and I watched lights come on in different rooms. She was moving around systematically, and I had a sick feeling about what she was doing. I waited until midnight, then used my key to enter through the back door. The house was quiet. Patricia had gone to bed in the master bedroom. I made my way to the kitchen, moving silently through rooms I'd known since childhood. That's when I found them. Every single photograph of my mother. Wedding pictures, family vacations, my high school graduation with Mom proudly standing beside me. Despite being weak from chemotherapy, all of them were stacked in garbage bags next to the trash can. 43 photos spanning 20 years of my mother's life, discarded like unwanted junk mail. Patricia had finally made her move. With Dad unconscious and possibly dying, she was erasing the last traces of my mother, probably planning to claim later that she'd been helping Dad heal by removing painful reminders. I stood there in the dark kitchen holding pictures of Mom, feeling rage build inside me like a pressure cooker about to explode. But I didn't explode. I smiled, because this was exactly what I'd been preparing for. I carefully photographed every bag, every discarded picture, documenting the scene with work investigation precision. Then I gathered all the photos and took them with me. But I left something behind. 3 months earlier, I'd installed a comprehensive security system in Dad's house. Patricia thought it was just basic cameras and door sensors, but I'd actually created a sophisticated monitoring network that recorded everything: video, audio, digital activity. Even when lights were turned on and off, every action Patricia had taken that night was recorded in perfect digital clarity. The next morning, I returned to the hospital with coffee and bagels for the nurses. Dad was awake, but groggy, asking about what had happened and when he could go home. "Patricia's taking care of everything," I told him. "Just focus on getting better." 2 days later, Dad was discharged to recover at home. I offered to stay and help during his recovery, and Patricia couldn't refuse without looking heartless. For the next week, I played the devoted son, helping Dad with medications, preparing meals, and managing his physical therapy appointments. Patricia resumed her real estate work, confident that she'd successfully completed her mission. She had no idea what was coming. Dad's recovery progressed steadily. After 2 weeks, he was strong enough to sit in his favorite chair and have actual conversations. That's when I decided it was time. "Dad, I need to show you something." I brought out my laptop and opened a file I'd titled Family History Project. Patricia was in the kitchen, close enough to overhear but not close enough to see the screen. "I've been working on organizing our family photos and videos," I said. "I thought you might want to see some of these while you're recovering." The first video I showed him was from my high school graduation. Mom was there, thin and pale but beaming with pride as I walked across the stage. Dad's eyes filled with tears as he watched her clap and cheer. "I remember this day," he whispered. "She was so proud of you." For the next hour, I showed Dad carefully curated photos and videos of Mom. Not just posed family pictures, but candid moments. Mom laughing in the garden, Mom reading in her favorite chair, Mom dancing with Dad in our living room. Dad was crying openly by the end, but they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of joy, of remembering love instead of loss. "I haven't seen these pictures in years," he said. "Where did you find them?" "They were in the house," I said carefully. "But Dad, I need to tell you something important." That's when Patricia appeared in the doorway, her face pale. "What's going on in here?" "Just showing Dad some family pictures," I said innocently. "Would you like to see?" Patricia's eyes darted to the laptop screen, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how I'd found photos she'd thrown away. "That's nice," she said tightly. "But don't you think this might be too emotional for your father while he's recovering?" "Actually," Dad said, wiping his eyes, "this is exactly what I needed. I feel more like myself than I have in years." Patricia forced a smile, but her hands were clenched into fists. That night, after Patricia thought we were both asleep, I heard her moving around the house. Through the security system, I watched her searching frantically for any remaining photos or mementos of Mom. She found nothing, of course. I'd secured everything that mattered years ago. The next morning, I made my second move. "Dad, I've been thinking about Mom's garden," I said over breakfast. "Remember how she always wanted to expand the rose section? Maybe we could do that as a tribute to her." Dad's face lit up. She did love those roses. She had such specific ideas about where each variety should go. "I actually have her garden journal," I said, producing a leather-bound notebook I'd rescued from Patricia's purge 3 years earlier. Patricia dropped her coffee mug. It shattered against the kitchen floor, ceramic shards scattering across the tile. "Clumsy me," she said, but her voice shook. As Patricia knelt to clean up the broken mug, I opened Mom's garden journal and showed Dad her handwritten notes and sketches. Her plans for expanding the garden, her favorite plant varieties, her dreams for creating a space where our family could gather. "We could start this spring," I suggested. "I think Mom would have loved that." "She would," Dad agreed. "Patricia, what do you think?" Patricia looked up from the floor, surrounded by broken ceramic. "I think," she said slowly, "that we shouldn't make major decisions while you're still recovering." That afternoon, while Patricia was showing a house to clients, I made my final move. "Dad, there's something else I need to show you. It's difficult, but I think you have a right to know." I opened another file on my laptop. This one contained the security footage from the night Patricia had thrown away Mom's pictures. Dad watched in silence as the video showed Patricia systematically removing every photograph of Mom from the house, stuffing them into garbage bags and placing them next to the trash can. "When was this recorded?" he asked quietly. "The night you were in the ICU. While you were fighting for your life, Patricia was at home throwing away every picture of Mom." Dad's face cycled through confusion, hurt, and finally anger. "She told me she was organizing things. She said she put your mother's pictures in storage for safekeeping." "There's more," I said. I showed him additional footage spanning the past 3 years. Patricia disposing of Mom's belongings, redecorating rooms to eliminate any trace of Mom's presence, even searching through my old bedroom for items she might have missed. When the video ended, Dad sat in silence for several minutes. "How long has this been going on?" he finally asked. "Since the beginning," I said. "She's been planning this since she married you." We heard Patricia's car in the driveway. "What do you want to do?" I asked. Dad looked at me with more clarity in his eyes than I'd seen in years. "I want my wife back," he said. "My real wife, the mother of my son." Patricia came through the front door with her usual theatrical cheer. "How are my 2 favorite men doing today?" "We need to talk," Dad said. For the next hour, Dad confronted Patricia with everything we'd discovered. The photos, the systematic removal of Mom's belongings, the lies about organizing and storing things for safekeeping. Patricia's defense was predictable. She claimed she was trying to help Dad move forward, that keeping reminders of his deceased wife was unhealthy. "You threw away pictures of my son's mother," Dad said quietly. "While I was dying in a hospital bed, you were at home destroying 20 years of family memories." "I was protecting you from pain," Patricia insisted. "You were erasing the woman I loved to make room for yourself." Patricia's mask finally slipped completely. "She's dead," Patricia snapped. "I'm alive. I'm here. I've been here for 3 years trying to build a life with you while you worship a ghost." The room fell silent. "Pack your things," Dad said. "I want you out of my house." "Our house," Patricia corrected. "I'm your wife. I have rights." "Actually," I said, opening my laptop again, "you don't." I showed them the prenuptial agreement Dad had signed before marrying Patricia. He'd forgotten about it, lost in grief and manipulation, but I'd found it in his files during my preparation. The agreement specified that Patricia had no claim to the house or any assets Dad had acquired before their marriage. "You can contest this in court if you want," I told Patricia, "but I have 3 years of documented evidence showing you systematically disposing of family property without authorization." Patricia stared at the screen, her face cycling through rage, disbelief, and calculation. "You planned this," she said to me. "You've been planning this for years." "I've been protecting my family for years," I corrected. "There's a difference." Patricia packed her belongings that same day. Dad sat in the living room, surrounded by rescued photos of Mom that I'd secretly preserved and restored. "I'm sorry," he told the photo. "I'm so sorry I let her do this to us." 6 months later, Dad's house looked like a home again. We'd restored Mom's garden according to her original plans, hung her pictures back in their rightful places, and even bought back some of her furniture from the charity shop. Dad was dating someone new now, a widow named Helen who understood that honoring past love doesn't diminish present possibilities. Helen had actually suggested we create a memory wall dedicated to Mom. Patricia tried to fight the divorce settlement, claiming she deserved compensation for 3 years of caring for Dad. Her lawyer reviewed my evidence files and advised her to accept the terms offered rather than face a court battle she couldn't win. She moved to California, where she apparently found another lonely widower to target. Sometimes Dad asks me how I knew to prepare for Patricia's betrayal, how I'd managed to preserve so much evidence. "I learned from the best," I tell him, showing him Mom's garden journal, where she'd written detailed notes about every plant, every season, every change. "Mom taught me that the things you love are worth protecting, and that protection requires preparation, patience, and attention to detail." In the end, Patricia had been right about one thing. Some things are worth fighting for, but she'd made a critical miscalculation about which things those were and who would be doing the fighting. Mom's pictures hang in our house again. Her garden blooms every spring, and her love continues to shape our family in ways Patricia never understood and could never destroy. Sometimes the best revenge isn't hurting those who hurt you. Sometimes it's simply refusing to let them win.